Howdy, howdy, listeners. This is your host, Random Nerd, on the Critical Thinking Nerd podcast. This episode dives straight into a very deeply concerning topic: parenting by proxy, using mobile devices to raise our children. The following audio explains.
My wife and I went out to dinner not too long ago. We sit down at this nice restaurant, look at the menu, and a family gets sat at the table right next to us. Young couple, 2 kids, both kids under 3. And before the parents even sat down to look at the menu, they were setting up their tablets. The child that was closest to us couldn't be more than a year old, could barely function, kind of just drooping over in the chair. Put him in the high chair, strap him in, prop the tablet, give the 3-year-old their own tablet, headphones, the whole 9 yards. And we watched the entire dinner. The parents maybe even looked at the children twice, talked to them maybe once. I made a video before about that, toddlers and tablets, and how terrible it was, and all the comments were, "You're so insensitive. What if there's sensory issues? What if they're autistic? What if?" The reality is that most kids aren't as autistic as you think they are. It's because they were given the tablet that early, and it's essential. It's sensory deprivation is what it is. They just learn to stare at colors and moving objects and noises. And then you give it to them with headphones so that they hear nothing but the world around them and they only hear what's coming out of the screen in front of them. Then you're teaching them not to be in the world. They don't know how. And we think that the tablets are taking care of the autism, but maybe all of the issues that children have are because they were just tortured from a very young age. And why do we do it? The answer is actually, it's passivity. It's easy. The parents don't want to parent. Kids are loud. They're annoying. They talk when they shouldn't, and they break things, and they move, and they do. And it's really hard to have a one-on-one conversation at dinner if your kid's not just drooling to itself for the entire time. It's easy is what it is. That's the actual reason parents give their kids these devices. I have a 7-year-old daughter. She's used a tablet twice in her entire life. Once was on vacation and once was on an airplane. And she's been told that it's a tool. It is for fun once in a while. She doesn't add it. She doesn't always have to have it. She doesn't own it. She doesn't carry it with her. She doesn't have headphones to block out the entire world. So use it to play a game and then she moves on. And I've worked really hard because I've seen everybody else's kids to not involve technology in her life. She was doing Legos at 3. She reads full books at 5, and now at 7 she can read her books all by herself, and she has an entire series that she's reading. She colors and draws and creates and rides her bike and runs, and I'm trying to make a normal child. And it's sad that that's the standard, that I have to brag that my 7-year-old can do Legos and ride bikes. And she comes to me, whether she's at school or at camp, she goes, "Dad, can I have a tablet? Can I have a phone?" I was like, "Why?" Because everybody else does. They sit on the bus and everybody just stares at their screens and I feel left out. I go to camp and they're all crowded around somebody's phone watching a video and I feel left out. And I have to explain to her that she's not the problem, they are. You are, the parent. That's what these kids have been reduced to, that when they go to dinner, they stare. When they're on the bus, they stare. When they're at camp where they should be running and playing and doing all these things, they're sitting in a corner and watching a video. That's what they have been reduced to because we've allowed it. With all the studies coming out now about screen time and limiting screen time and don't give it to them and brain scans and MRIs, all the stuff that's coming out, it's very obvious. And going forward, I hope that everybody makes the right choice. Don't even give it to them.
Continuing on, segment 1. What is parenting by proxy really means? Let's be crystal clear about what we're talking about when we say parenting by proxy. Parenting by proxy is what happens when a tablet, a smartphone, or a TV quietly becomes the primary caretaker of your child's attention, imagination, and even their sense of reality. It's when the device does the hard work that the parent doesn't want to do, keeping the kid quiet, entertained, and out of the way. This isn't about shaming families who own devices. This is about calling out the habit of using those devices as a substitute for parenting. If your default response to your child's boredom, curiosity, or misbehavior is, "Here, take the iPad," that's parenting by proxy. Segment 2, lazy and neglectful parenting, plainly named. Let's say the uncomfortable thing out loud. A lot of this is lazy and in many cases neglectful parenting. Lazy because kids are inconvenient. They make noise. They ask questions. They interrupt adult conversations. They spill drinks and break things. Actually, parenting them requires attention and patience. It means engaging, teaching, correcting, redirecting. That's hard, especially after a long day of work. Neglectful, because when you sit across from your child at the dinner table and hand them a glowing screen instead of your eyes, your voice, and your presence, you are not raising them. You are managing them. You are not forming their mind. You're just silencing their humanity. Now, some people will say, but screens can be educational. Sure, sometimes, but that's not what's happening when a toddler is strapped into a high chair and pacified with videos so the adults can have an uninterrupted meal. That's not education. That's sedation. Segment 3. It's not about devices. It's about responsibility. I want to make this absolutely clear. This episode is not a crusade against technology. It's a call to action for parents to be parents. Phones, tablets, and TVs are tools. They can be used well in limited, intentional ways. The problem is when those tools become the default answer to every challenge of raising a child. When you use screens to replace your presence, your discipline, your conversation, your storytelling, that's when they stop being tools and start being stand-in parents. The responsibility of being a parent is non-transferable. You cannot hand it to Netflix. You cannot outsource it to YouTube Kids. You cannot delegate it to an algorithm that only cares about watch time and ad revenue. If you chose to bring a child into this world, you chose the work, the noise, the mess, the questions, the discipline, and the daily grind of shaping a human being. Segment 4, the real standard of childhood. We've reached a point where basic healthy childhood activities sound like bragging. I'm proud of my 7-year-old reads books. I'm proud my kid builds Legos. I'm proud my child rides a bike, plays outside, and uses their imagination. Listen, how absurd is that? These should be normal. This should be the standard, not the exception. The standard should never be, look how special my kid is. They read. The standard should be, of course they read. Of course they build. Of course they play. That's what childhood is for. If you have to brag about your child doing something other than staring at a screen, that tells you how far the baseline has fallen. We've normalized a version of childhood that is mostly passive consumption, scrolling, tapping, watching, when it should be active creation, discovery, and social interaction. Segment 5, screens and societal isolation. Let's talk about what this screen-centric childhood is actually doing to kids socially. We say we're connecting them, but in reality, we're isolating them. Kids sit side by side on the bus, each in their own digital bubble. They go to camp, a place designed for play and exploration. and end up huddled around a phone watching videos instead of playing tag or climbing trees. It looks like they're together, but they're not really together. They're staring at the same device, not at each other. They're sharing content, not experiences. This kind of upbringing trains children to be present in body, but absent in mind. It teaches them that social life is something you consume on a screen, not something you live in real time with people in real space. That is societal isolation disguised as entertainment. Segment 6: Raising competent children, not quiet ones. The job of a parent is not to raise quiet children, it's to raise competent children. Competent children know how to sit at a table and have a conversation, wait for food without needing constant digital stimulation, play, build, imagine, and problem solve without an app doing the thinking for them. Handle boredom, frustration, and awkwardness without instantly escaping into a screen. When you default to devices every time your child is restless, you're training them to be emotionally fragile, socially dependent on distraction. You're teaching them that every discomfort is a glitch that must be patched with a video. If you want your child to grow into a competent adult, you have to let them experience the small discomforts and challenges of childhood. And you have to walk through those moments with them, not mute them with a tablet. Segment 7: A call to action. Be the parent. So here's the heart of this episode, stripped of all politeness. If you have a child, and I'm going to share this bluntly, be a fucking parent. Don't just feed them and keep them alive. Raise them, engage them, talk to them, read with them, play with them, set boundaries, say no. Teach them how to be in the world, not just in a screen. The standard should not be bragging about reading books or playing with Legos. The standard should be parents who understand that they are responsible for raising competent, grounded human beings and who refuse to outsource that job to devices. Here's your challenge starting tonight. At dinner, put the phones away. Talk to your kids. On car rides, let them be bored. Let them look out the window. Ask questions. Think. At home, set screen limits and stick to them. Fill the space with books, games, puzzles, crafts, and conversation, even boredom. It won't be as quiet. It won't be as easy. But that's the point. Parenting isn't supposed to be effortless. It's supposed to be intentional. Segment 8, closing. As we wrap this episode, I want you to ask yourself one simple question. Are you parenting your child, or are you letting devices do it for you? If the honest answer stings a little, good. Let that discomfort be the start of change, not the end of the conversation. If this hit home for you or challenged you, share it with another parent who needs to hear it. And remember, screens can entertain your children, but only you can raise them for truth, transparency, and fairness. If you found this episode meaningful, please continue to listen to my next episode as I dive deeper and research further to share my knowledge with you. Thank you.